So Vishnu, welcome to the podcast. It's really cool to have you on. You're officially the first sailor that we've ever had on the podcast, which is pretty cool. And I think it's even cooler because you're from India, and that's not necessarily a sport that's synonymous with India as sailing. But anyone that's either going against the trend or just following what they're passionate about, I always want to connect with. Before we get onto you and your story, Ananya has done some background digging, and she's going to read out some of your history and achievements for the listeners so they know what you've done so far, and maybe you can fact check her and see if she's got everything right there.
Yeah, so Vishnu, I'm going to give you a Google intro basically. This is your opportunity to fact check, myth bust, whatever. I don't know if all of this is correct. If it is, I hope it is, but I feel like a lot of time journalists take liberty and create stories on their own. So here goes. Vishnu Saravanan is an Indian Olympic sailor who's made a name for himself in the world of competitive sailing through his achievements in the laser class. Originally from Vellore, Tamil Nadu, Vishnu now lives in Mumbai with his family. As a youngster, he competed in several different sports, including tennis, table tennis, football, and even participated at the national level in javelin. Inspired by his father, he took up sailing along with his sister Ramya and trained under the tutelage of his father in those early years. Since 2017, he has dominated the national competitions, winning the national championship 7 years in a row. He has completed his bachelor's in commerce and is part of the Indian Army as a Naib Subedar. Vishnu has competed in a variety of prestigious international events, including two Olympic Games, 2020 in Tokyo and 2024 in Paris recently, World Sailing Championships, and the Asian Games. He won a historic bronze medal in Hangzhou in 2022. Vishnu's dedication to his sport has seen him travel to and train in different parts of the world, learning in new environments and conditions in an effort to continue to level up. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the legend that is Vishnu Saravanan.
You make me sound like a saint over there. No, no, no. No, I mean, yeah, these things are true. I fact check it. Okay. But my only thing is like, I just love the sport and I just follow the passion, and that passion kind of turned into profession. So that's about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool how you say that. It's funny when we read out the list of achievements like that. A lot of people feel a little bit like, oh, awkward, or like you're kind of proud, but it's just so much. But most come back to something like that where it's said, well, I actually just love it. I love the sport. And through the journey of loving the sport and trying to be your best, you end up with all these accomplishments. Or sometimes, I know it was certainly the case with me, is where you sit there at times thinking, gee, I want to achieve this and I want to win this, and you're constantly searching for the next thing, and sometimes you can lose the passion. But it's really good to hear that your response to all your achievements is like, well, I just love it.
Yeah, well, I think we're just lucky to have sports as a profession, right? Like many people don't get the opportunity to do what we do and travel and compete and like experience different kind of cultures and just all sorts of things that's not on the plate for many people. I think that kind of thing I appreciate that a lot more than what's given there. So yeah.
I think you've earned it though as well at the same time. Like a lot of people might say, I love sailing or tennis or table tennis, all of the million sports that you've done, javelin at a national level too. But like sometimes it takes a lot of courage to actually follow that dream and make it a profession. So well done on doing that, because I'm sure there were cases where you're thinking, do I go and get a normal regular job, or do I follow my passion? And you've done that and had the reward. So what we do on this podcast, which we've had two people so far, one is Ananya herself, which I highly recommend to listeners and yourself going back and listening. It was probably my favorite podcast that I've done. And I'm not just saying that because she's here. And we've had a swimmer as well. And what we do is we ask three questions. So I'm going to give you three questions and you can choose which one you want to answer, and then we'll roll from there. So the first question is, what fear would you like to be free of?
Okay.
The second is whoever you never really thanked for the influence they've had on your life. And the third is what is something that seems unachievable to you?
The three tough questions to choose from. Well, I would love to answer them all, but I'll choose one, which is probably um, thanking someone, because I was just recently reading this book called The One Thing, which is basically about just doing the one thing, nothing else. And well, I have not thanked, I think, many of them who laid the foundation for me, like personally, but I do have the appreciation in thought, and I've always remembered them. But it's kind of difficult to get to them. You know what I mean? Like, it's a new sport, so it's really tough to get everybody involved. I know, like, my father has been a big foundation for me, but even for that, it's when I was little, like, I didn't know how many people actually it took to get me sailing. So it's actually quite nice to hear about those stories that these many people actually helped you. And I would like to thank them personally when I get the opportunity and meet them. So that's my thing, yeah. So, like, the another thing is, like, no one is actually succeeded like alone. Like, no one is self-made, right? Like, everybody has someone who's actually helped you in some form. Might be your father, might be someone who's lent you something, so everybody has got their own, um, like lucky charm or uh, helper there. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's interesting how you say there's so many people, but you've never really had the chance to go and thank them.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the vulnerable piece where we don't do it often enough. And I was listening to another podcast actually, and they were talking about writing a gratitude letter to the parents and how hard that is, and that people literally start crying just writing the letter. And then the next step is to be able to read it out to your parents. But like, it's a good thing, right? You're saying thank you for everything you're grateful for, but it is so, so hard for us to do. And you mentioned your dad there, and I know he's had a huge influence. He's a past sailor as well at a very high level. When you were growing up, did you feel like you're potentially living out his dream, or when did it become your dream as well?
I actually didn't know. Like, I was just like brought into this sailing thing, and then I really loved it, so I just got into it. And then I just wanted to compete. So at that time, I didn't really know I was very competitive, so I was just going for it. So I really enjoyed that kind of atmosphere, and like made new friends, and like it's just a good atmosphere for a kid, right? And then later on, when it became like when I grew a little bit older, later in the teens, that's when I actually know, like, I have to choose a sport that I have to continue, because I never thought about having a desk job. So I always wanted to be a sportsman, because I've been gifted with good physical abilities, and so I need to be able to utilize those abilities and just like bring out the best out of it. So I decided, okay, sailing is the best option, because I've been performing really well. I've been national champion a few times and gone out. So it's the easiest sport to get into, and because I have the access to it, and also the toughest because there's no recognition for it, right? So it's a hard balance to get things done. But that's when I actually got the guidance from my dad, where he said, okay, you can actually go to the Olympics, because he never said that it was his dream, but I kind of understood later on, like, it was actually he was actually living his dream through mine. So I'm grateful to be able to actually deliver that. And so that's basically it. Like, I'm kind of just head first and just not think about anything else. So that's what happened. So I just decided, okay, I just want to continue sailing, and I want to become the best in the world. So that's the process still going on. So yeah, I mean, that's what's driving me, to go forward and push forward. So nothing else actually is in my mind.
So Vishnu, you did mention that you kind of just dove into it and you realized very late or much later that your dad was living his dream through you. But I have to ask because, there are a lot of parents, maybe, I mean, like in India, definitely, but I'm sure around the world as well, who kind of live vicariously through their children, live out their dreams through their children. We've heard so many, young athletes talk about my father or my mother wasn't able to do this, and therefore I want to do this. At any point through your journey, did you kind of feel any pressure of, I have to do this for them? Or was it always with you, just let me enjoy it and see what happens?
I will be honest, like there is the pressure that I have to perform, but there was no pressure from my parents that, you know, it's okay. Because they were such good facilitators that they didn't even let me think about failure, or like it's just an experience. Like it's if I lose today or like not win a medal, but that's just the motivation for me to move forward for the next day. Sound like Kobe Bryant, right? So it's a bit like that. So just them being such good facilitators, like both my parents, because my dad is there in the highlights, but my mom's actually in the background. She never lets me tell her name because she just wants to stay in the background. So, like, she is also a big part of my success, and my sister, because we all kind of work together because at the end, like, we want to improve the sport and ourselves as well. And yeah, never really had that performance pressure from my parents, but we did have later on when I grew up, because it became a profession. Then it became okay, I need to start performing because that's how I'll get my next food. So that's when it became a bit more pressurized. But I later on I kind of understood I also like pressure because that's when I perform. And yeah, like Billie Jean King says, pressure is a privilege. So I really love pressure. It's how you take it, right? Like, and it kind of sharpens my mind, and I'm more focused when there's more pressure. I also qualified in the Olympics, my first one in the last race, which was like I still remember the nerves because it was fun to have that kind of nerves. I know I'm a bit like crazy, but it's actually like it's really nice. You don't get that kind of pressurized in sport every day. Like it doesn't matter if it's a national or a small event. Like it only happens when all the stakes are high, and like you have to perform. Otherwise it's nothing's gonna change. It's just you have to try the next day the same thing. But it's just that at the time it feels like your world's gonna end the next day. So
That really interests me, like in terms of how you frame pressure. It's not something that's normal in terms of when most people speak about pressure, they speak about it as a bad thing, or I'm under pressure, or the pressure's on me. Even like before my parents are under pressure. And I really want to go deeper into when you spoke about just the example where you've got a moment in time where you know that if you perform really well, it has a really positive impact. And if you don't, to the point where if it's a profession, you're now not putting food on the table, right? And your day-to-day dreams, support your family, give you your sister, your dreams since you were a kid. You don't want to work a desk job. Like all of these stories, at least subconsciously, are there. And it is high pressure. But now you're coming in and saying, I love it.
yeah.
Right. Is that something that you've learned over time to really embrace pressure and love pressure? Or is that something that you've had with you right throughout?
I don't know if I had it right throughout, but I did. So because of my psychologist and my mentor, so I learned about myself. That's where I learned I actually love pressure. So I don't know if I was born with it or, but I definitely trained for it, because as we train physically, we have to train mentally, right? So everybody tells that. So I did like do my mental toughness uh, uh, tests and whatever, so I wanted to improve my mental toughness and kind of put pressure in just in practices, training, so it feels comfortable. So that kind of um environment helped me to perform in the highest stages or the biggest stages. So I think, yeah, that's kind of like I've trained to have that kind of mindset to go and become a killer. And at the same time, I'm a very nice person. So people say that self praise is no praise. So I don't want to praise. So anyway, so that's how you have to switch on and switch off. So I have this mode of being switched on and switched off, where switched off can be like a monkey head. I won't think about anything, just go everywhere, But it's important to know when to be switched on and when to be switched off. Switched on can be very tiring. Like we all know, we are all guilty that we can't be having 100% focus at all times, right? Everybody has social media where we get distracted and we don't know what's happening around us. So I think it's important to know when we are switched on. The awareness is more about it's more important to have that awareness rather than just like lying to yourself that, yes, this is right and this is wrong. But, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love that you mentioned you've done some work with a psychologist, and it's not that there's probably two sides, you say. There's one side where you've built the capacity to deal with pressure better. And part of that is understanding that you've got an on and an off, the monkey in your mind. And what's interesting from a neurobiology point of view is that they actually show two different networks. I'm not sure if you've seen that. It's cool. So like what you just said there is you've got in your brain, there's two completely different areas that light up when you're completely 100% focused versus when you're like that monkey mind is distracting. Now, the monkey mind is called the default mode network because it is default and it actually literally uses up less energy. Whereas the direct experience network, which is the 100% focused here and now network, that uses up heaps and heaps of energy. And that's why it's really hard to use it. But what research has shown, the more you train it, so the more you train that focused mind at the right time in the right place, the better you get at accessing it and the less energy it takes. But even better, the more you embrace it and are able to actually love the high energy cost direct experience network, the more you dip into then flow state.
Yeah, you just enjoy it, right? After that.
Well, you dip into flow, and when you're in flow, it's actually you're not using that much energy at all. So it's a bit bizarre.
I believe in this kind of flow state and how to actually switch on, like open the chakras and all this. So it's actually important. Well, it's important to do meditation, and it's important because we have so many things to do, but such less time to do those things. So rather than focusing on so many things, I would just focus on one thing and then finish that 100%. So meditation kind of helps me to bring that awareness and the focus to help me do that one thing correctly and in all sorts of, 100% kind of my behavior there. So, yeah, I mean, having the mental state is more important than having that physical state, because I think in the top 30 in the world, everybody would be physically at almost same. It's just that at the end, Olympics, everybody has that mental pressure from also, it can be a little pressure. It can be something you woke up on the wrong side, so also all sorts of things can affect you in that kind of particular day. And it's so quick that you won't even realize that, oh, event's over, like I haven't won a medal. So that's the reality of it, right? So if we are in the moment and we have that peace with the mind and body, then I think everything clicks, and that's what the flow state is, I guess. Yeah.
So Vishnu, I mean, like speaking of being switched on, knowing that it's the mental side of it that separates kind of the best from the rest, almost. So much of of sailing is problem solving on the go. You're having to deal with so many different uncontrollables and having to almost like adjust your plans every minute based on weather, wind, and all that. I guess, how are you able to all these theories that you've learned and all the theories that you're practicing, how are you able to then execute in such high pressure environments? I know you said you enjoy it, but like, how have you found, or what, how have you basically found ways to calmly solve problems when there's so much that could go wrong?
Yeah. Well, it happens quite a lot because sometimes you find you like I find myself in a very bad situation, when in a very difficult situation in a race, and it might be a very important race. But every race is important, and it might be a race that could lose me a gold medal or a silver medal. So that's when like you forget about the medal is not yet on my neck, right? So it's not yet presented to me, so I don't have it yet. So I have to work for it. So I at that time I just think about breathing in and breathing out, let it go, and feel the weight on my boat, and then reconnecting with the boat. So it's just like uh, rebooting yourself. Okay, let me start over. Let me like think about, okay, where's the wind? Okay, that's the wind. So then I have a bit of checklist. So okay, this is the checklist. Okay, let me start over. Let me not give up. This is only the start. So I'll just kind of refocus myself in the present rather than dwelling on the past situation that happened and the future that's gonna happen, let's say, or that might not happen. So the present is more important, and because I feel it's easy to be in present in my sport because I have so many things to deal with. So I don't like the hardest part is to get on the water for me because there's so much media. Well, not much media like cricket, but there is a few media and few people who talk about results, this, that. So I don't like that crowd on the ground. So for me, the best is to set the boat up as fast as possible and get on the water. Then my focus is clear. Once I'm in the water, then it's a mode like it's a killer mode. Like so, you just have to go for it, right? So and you're not winning every race because we are against the nature, and sometimes nature doesn't give you the right choices. So you have to kind of maneuver according to it. So like you have to go with it. And that's what I've learned. You have to be very flexible with it and make the best out of the situation. So if you're 20, try to reach at least to top 10. So that's the kind of goal. So basically bringing back the present mode and just to be in the present mindset. Yeah.
When we work with a lot of athletes, we like to use this acronym called WIN, which is what's important now. Have you heard of that one before? And just
WIN, what's
WIN,
important.
so WIN, what's important now. So like a few of the cricketers that I work with, they'll write it on their gloves, and it's funny because it spells out win, but the way to win is the what's important now, which it sounds like you use that essentially like when you're on the water. But what I want to...
Sorry, I have a kiss. It's keep it simple, stupid.
Brilliant. I like it. That's what I need, actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to change win to kiss, trying 7 different shots to one ball. But one thing, it's a bit of a tangent, but I was actually having a hit with my coach today from a cricket point of view. And the analogy of the sport that we dedicate ourselves to and life in terms of the challenges, like you talked a lot about acceptance, like you're dealing with nature here. You're not going to know there's so many uncontrollables, like the actual conditions that you'll be sailing in, but also then you mentioned the hardest thing is to get on the boat in the first place, where there's all these people that will say things which is out of your control and just distracting from your passion, which is to get on the boat and tackle the conditions. So there's an acceptance piece. He said connect with the boat. So from a cricket point of view, we talk a lot about connecting to the ground, and if you can actually connect to the conditions around you, connect to the ground and move smoothly with grace through that, then the outcome takes care of itself. But as soon as you start to try and hit the ball, it goes rubbish, right? And it's kind of what we're finding. It's the same in life. It's like accept the ball that's coming to you and move into it with grace, despite the noise. Is that something that you have a little bit of a link in that, in terms of how you go about sailing?
Yes, like, because we never think about driving, right? After we are driving for so long, let's say, look, it's a bit of natural. We don't really think about changing the gears and whatever. It's the same with every sport. We've done it for so long. We don't really think about, okay, this is the cover drive I'm going to hit, or this the whatever, like, shots I'm going to hit. So because it's so, like, the brain is so used to being so intuitive with that, because we have practiced for so long. So, and the moment when you start thinking about the shots, that's when things go wrong. Like, it's the same with sailing. So, the moment you start thinking about, my boat speed is not at the right level, that's when actually the boat speed is not going to be at the right level, because you're not focusing on the right things that needs to be focused on. So, I think, yes, like, it's important to keep it just simple rather than complicating. I know it's very easy to say keep it simple, but it is the fact. Like, you have to just appreciate and just keep it like what it is, keep it real, and just go at it, because you've done it for so long. You don't have to have that fear, because many people have that self doubt, and limit themselves with the performances. I think many of us do it, like, and it's important to know that there's no limit to our capabilities, and we can always outperform ourselves and be surprised that, oh, I actually won a medal. I didn't really expect to win a medal there, and it happened to us. I think in some events, some championships, because sometimes we go with no expectations, and that's actually when the brain's actually going with no expectations, and you perform much better. And that's the drug that kind of pulls you back to the sport. Like, you actually want to do the sport longer, and then you put pressure on yourself, and then you don't perform, and then you come back with no expectations, and then you do another event with good performance. It's like a vicious cycle that goes around. And then that's why, like, people who are great, who are legends, they have the consistency and being at that level for such period. Like, there are some great athletes and great sportsmen, who have been there but never been there in a long period. I think that's the real key to success, or real key to be a great sportsmanship, like, in their own fields, to be actually able to be consistently winning and such a high level. I think, yeah. I don't know if I answered that question.
No, I think you did. And I think you touched upon a point that both Bhavi and I like talking about, in terms of just being able to detach from the results. And that's potentially the hardest thing to do, because everyone's kind of defining what success should look like for you. And as an athlete, I mean, the definition of success is to win a medal, to do something like that. I guess, have you found it hard, or how have you kind of found a balance for yourself in terms of being able to detach from the results themselves? Because I'm sure, as a high achieving athlete, you wanted to go to the Olympics, you wanted to finish in top 10, you wanted to medal. There's the thing behind you that says Olympic medal. Yes, we will. So there's obviously, I mean, there's so much that you want to do, but there is a journey that you have to go through to get there. There are milestones that you have to take off before you get to that point of success. I guess, how have you been able to, first of all, detach yourself from that, and how have you kind of defined this success for yourself along your journey?
Oh, well, the thing is, like, I don't really care about so much about winning a medal in the Olympics. It's just that I love that how hard it is to win it. So I like that it's that difficult, and I like that challenge, and it gives me a purpose to be able to, pursue that goal. think that's more important than being focused on the results. Okay. And it's also the little things that you learn every day. Might not every day, but every now and then you learn few things, and it's important to remember those things. I have a short-term memory, so I forget many things, but I do get reminded constantly. Few things that's actually very key points, and everybody has those. So I think it's important to remember those things, and success is my success would be if I leave a legacy behind the sport, not actually winning a Olympic medal. Olympic medal is just the beginning of what would change the sport, because my goal is to bring sailing in India like as a big platform, because it's a beautiful sport, and we have so much of sea around us and like water bodies around us, so why not appreciate the nature and stop throwing plastics in them and ruin our race course or field of play, rather than like enjoy the nature and have fun with it, like, because it's a beautiful sport, and at the end of the day we have this purpose to just appreciate what we have. And everybody's running like rats, so we just have to be focused on one thing. And I try to just kind of be in the present and enjoy what I have. Like, I appreciate my family and what it's done to me, what they have done to me. And so every now and then I do get hard times, which is hard, of course, for everybody. They have their own problems, but it's it's the hard times that actually decide, okay, what's your real personality, so I just smile and have the solution for it, and might be a good one, or might be a better one, but that's what my brain is thinking. And then I ask for seniors who are actually there to help me out, and they do. And so those kind of approach to life itself is an important thing. So sport kind of teaches me how to live my life. Like I learned so much in sailing. Like, I'm being wise now. So I learned so much in sailing, just by being able to, like, you're not handed in plate in sailing. Like, I've cried sometimes because I didn't know like this boats can go this speed, like this fast. So it was actually amazing. That was cry because it was an eye opener, like, okay, I need to work so much harder because these guys can actually make this boat move so much faster. So those kind of things you find it first experience is always very pleasant or unforgettable. So I think those kind of memories will always be there in my head and always motivate me to actually just keep moving forward. And yeah, I mean, just being positive itself kind of helps.
Yeah, I love your Vishnu, the way you put together your philosophy, if you like, is really beautiful, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. And I know Nanya is, particularly with her athletes through Go Sports as well, is like when you're sitting back and saying, okay, I love sport, I want to have a crack, whether it's sailing, football, cricket, whatever it is. Like, these are my goals, or for the Olympic medal, yes, we will. But how the process to build your skill set up to get there is where I think people are going wrong a little bit. And I think you're a beautiful example of a holistic way of putting together your performance plan, but it's not a performance plan, it's a way of life, where it sounds like the starting point is understanding who you are. And an example of that you've spoken about today is you sat with your psychologist and realized part of who you are is that you love pressure. You love, it's actually part of who you are. And you've uncovered that through doing the work with a psychologist, so who are you? You love pressure. You love being outdoors. You love the passion of just getting after something and being competitive. Okay, great. Now, sport is the ability to express those elements of you, as opposed to the sport's going to define how valuable you think you are. And then a second piece I really love is a really strong purpose mindset, in that, of course, medals will be there. Of course, Olympics will be there. You're competitive. Of course, you're going to want to win. But what you've done is you've attached something that's greater than yourself. Two parts to that is we've got making sailing a bigger sport in India, and the opportunities that opens up for health, for well-being, for community, but then also a purpose of the real deep gratitude, which kind of brings it back to the first question of the people that have helped you. So it's your way of also giving back to them. And after all that, we go, okay, physical, technical, tactical, mental skills. Whereas I don't, and Anya, if you want to speak to this as well, in terms of what you see as I definitely know what it's like in cricket, where we spend thousands of hours hitting cover drives and no one even talks about this stuff. So I don't know if you like either one of you want to talk to what you see as a general thing of how people go after success compared to what we're seeing from Vishnu today.
Well, I can speak about it from a cricket standpoint. I think a lot of or most people that you come across will kind of, you're always chasing after results and always going after those results in a very your problems are always tactical, technical, or physical. And I don't think we, at least from my experiences within the cricket space, and I know it's changing now very slowly, but just you're almost trying to build machines. And I don't think that people have yet understood that everyone has their own paths. Everyone has their own ways of going after their goals. And not everyone can follow the same
Routine.
journeys. Yeah, the same routines. Like, I think we're so stuck upon building machines that our coaching is very, this has to look like this. And I mean, we're going slightly off topic, but I remember one of my coaches basically telling me that your elbow has to come in at a 90 degrees, and my elbow is weirdly like off. So I couldn't, like, physically couldn't play it like that, but I was constantly told that there's something wrong with you because you can't do that and you're doing it wrong. And I still see that mindset kind of coming through. I know in a cricket space, I hope that, now that you see different athletes across sports kind of being very vocal, that they've all, gone through different journeys. And I feel like everyone has this, everyone bonds or trauma bonds almost in India because they've gone through this. You have to be like this and you have to do this and this is what you have to follow. And then suddenly you have this, it's almost this eureka moment where actually, you know what, I don't think I'm like that. And I hope that now that we have more role models like a Vishnu, like Niranjan, like a Smriti or a Jemima, who are very vocal about, actually, you can do this differently. And we are not the same people, and our methods are different, our routines are different, the way our brain works is different. And just accepting that, I think, is something that we have to improve on as a country. But yeah, these are my experiences. But I hope with people like Vishnu kind of speaking a lot more about these things, that we also begin to understand that, like, there's so much more to sport and to life than winning, and winning looks different to everyone. I think that's kind of one of the things that has come through in this conversation so beautifully, is that yes, I want to achieve these things, but if I don't, it's not the end of the world. I've gained so much along the way in terms of life experiences, in terms of just understanding my own sport. I think that's one of the main things that I really learned from this conversation, and I'm actually really, really happy to have kind of seen your outlook to life, I guess, Vishnu.
Oh, thank you. It's really important because I understand how you've been trauma treated, or like the experience that you've been through, because it's very normal. And I think it's in every sport, especially like in some places more than other, but in other places, I think every coach, the best coach would be facilitating you in your own ways, right? Like everybody is built differently, so everybody would want their own way, or like you won't teach Messi to, work like super hard and, like to make him play right foot or whatever. So it's how he is. Like it's just the way it is. And in sailing, especially, everybody has a different style. It doesn't matter what your style of hiking, in the sense, the positioning of the boat in the boat. So it's just, if it works, it works. That's how our coaches tell us. It doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to look, like a photographic. If it works, if it makes you win the race, then it's a good technique. That's about it. So everybody has their own techniques, because personally, I have a big feet, so I have a completely different technique. So because, um like, so in the way I am sitting in the boat and whatever, so my coaches can find me from a mile away because of the positioning. So it's just how it is. Like, I'm a bit of a rebel myself. Like, if someone tells me don't go right, I will go right. So it's like that. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's not nice to be like that, because of course coaches are also helping you out, in many ways than others. So in that way, it's good. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you, because we have a stereotype kind of mentality where, okay, this is right and this is wrong, and winning is winning and losing is, that's it. Like, you're gone. Like, nobody cares about you. So that's a pretty bad state where we are in, because if you win a medal, then you're the superstar. Everybody wants to click a selfie. Like, nobody cares if you click a selfie or not. Like, nobody cares if you give us so much money. It's more like, it's just like, we want to achieve that and we did it. And next day we're gonna do the same thing. Best example would be Neeraj, because, like, he just does his own thing, right? Like, he has the goal, he wants to do that, and that's it. Like, he does it. And I really appreciate him. And he's like the big uh, idol and motivation, to everybody in the sport. And personally, like, him being that kind of face of Indian sports, like, improved the sport in general. In whatever way it has improved. So it's really good in that way. And then, of course, PV Sindhu, who's won 2 Olympic medals in, 2016 and 2020. It's just not really easy to do that, in especially in women's, and in singles. It's just not easy in such a long period, 8 years of, like, going at it. And then, of course, you get all the critics, and people talk, doesn't care, like, it doesn't really matter. But of course, like, when I speak with Piyush Sindhu, like, she's just so chill. Like, it's just like, doesn't matter, what happens, because that's the mindset. uh, Many people talk, but the people who are talking, they actually don't. It's their job to talk, So it's just what they do. So we just let them be. So, like, we can't control them, and we shouldn't control them. So it's just how it is. Like, we just have to focus on our things and try to make the future better. Like, future in the sense, the next generation in our sport, because I think India is not a very sporting country. Everybody knows that. We are into more businesses. Everybody in the world knows that. So it's better we start switching, because health is a very important issue, and sport is something we can do every day. Doesn't take a dime out of your pocket. You just have to walk and go to the park, walk around, make friends. So I think it's very important to have that generalized, culture of being in the sport. Like, in Netherlands, you see everybody with the bicycles going like 30 kilometers an hour. Like, I, I'm being overtaken by a 80-year-old on a bicycle, and of course, because we are tourists, so we don't know where we're going, but they know where they're going. So they're unfazed. They just go boom, like, go past you. So it's actually crazy, because everywhere they go is bicycles. Their river is full of bicycles. So it's just the factor of mentality and the mindset we can change. And because it's such a vast populated country, it's very difficult to change, because we have so many minds, right? So it's really hard to change one mind. So forget about a billion minds. It's going to take a lifetime.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm actually really grateful that we've had you on, Vishnu, because you are the example of um, what we're trying to do here, in that it's highlighting people who are successful in the traditional means of it, but to show the process to get there, as you said with PV Sindhu, is it's not like work harder, get everything perfect and go hard. It's a holistic view. It's a pretty chilled view, but you're working hard. Like, I have no doubt that you work your butt off, but the way you do that is different. And the driving force behind that is about building a better culture and giving back to those around you. And I really enjoyed just listening to you speak and the way you go about it. So thank you so much. Unless, Ananya, you have anything else pressing that you want to ask, I've really enjoyed this chat, and hopefully the listeners that tune in, it's just another way of impacting. We don't need to impact 1 billion people, but as you say, if we can help 1 or 2, we're on our way. So thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, and all the best for your next adventures, I suppose.
Thank you very much for having me. It was really a nice time to chat about these things, because it's nice to just chat,
Yeah, that's right. Cool.
Yeah, I have to admit, this is the most I've heard Vishnu speak. I remember last time when I met him, he would answer in 1 sentence. So when I asked him, I was wondering how much are we going to get out of him. But then, of course, I was told, no, he speaks a lot. But yeah, Vishnu, I really enjoyed it, and yeah, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to continue to be part of the Inside Edge project, hit subscribe or leave a comment below. We're also on all major social media platforms. I look forward to having you along next time.